Hey everyone, welcome. Today we're diving into something truly fascinating, Islamic monetary economics. We're going to explore an economic blueprint built not just on profit and loss, but on a foundation of faith, morality, and a completely different way of looking at the world. So, let's get into it.
And this really gets us to the big, central question for today. What if our entire financial system had a higher purpose? I mean, what if it was actually designed to create well-being for everyone, not just in this life, but in the next? It's a pretty radical idea, and it's right at the heart of this whole model.
All right, so to really get our heads around this, here's our game plan. We'll start by looking at where our modern money even comes from in the first place. Then, we'll dig into the core beliefs of the Islamic model, see how it actually works in practice, and finally, we'll ask the big question, could this be a real alternative for the world today? Okay, so before we can really appreciate how different this approach is, we kind of have to take a step back and look at the money we use every day. Believe it or not, it wasn't always just numbers on a screen or pieces of paper. You know, for most of human history, money was a physical thing with real inherent value. Think about gold dinar and silver dirham coins. The value was literally in the metal you were holding. Then, in 1944, the Bretton Woods Agreement kind of standardized everything around the US dollar, which was itself backed by gold. But then, after 1971, the game completely changed. The US dropped the gold standard, and we all entered the age of fiat money. That's money whose value is basically based on trust in the government that issues it. It's valuable simply because they say it is. And this right here, this really paints a picture of what that shift means. On the left, you've got money that is value. Its worth is baked right into the physical gold and silver. On the right, well, you see what happens to fiat money over time with inflation. That 100,000 rupiah note could get you a full cart of groceries back in 1998. Fast forward to 2013, and it barely buys you a couple of items. Its purchasing power just gets eaten away, and that's a fundamental problem that Islamic economics really tries to address. So, with that history in our back pocket, let's explore the philosophical foundation of the Islamic model, because its starting point is worlds apart from what we just talked about. Right at the very core of Islamic economics is this powerful idea. All economic activity, from starting a business to your daily job, is seen as flowing for God, done for God's purpose, and ultimately returning to God. What that really means is that finance and business aren't seen as separate from your spiritual life. They're actually considered a form of worship. And these aren't new ideas, not at all. They come directly from primary sources like the Quran and have been developed and debated for centuries by incredible thinkers. People like the great 14th century scholar Ibn Khaldun, whose work, the Muqaddimah, laid out complex economic ideas that were way, way ahead of his time. So if the goal in many conventional economic systems is just to maximize profit, the ultimate goal here is something called falah. And falah is a much richer, bigger concept. It's about achieving real, holistic well-being. Prosperity in this world, for sure, but also salvation in the next. It's a total shift from a purely quantitative goal, like more money, to a qualitative one, a better, more just and fulfilling life for everyone. And to get to that goal of falah, everything is built on four core values. First is ownership, the idea that all wealth ultimately belongs to God, and we're just here as trustees, responsible for managing it wisely. Then there's justice, making sure wealth circulates and doesn't just get hoarded by a handful of people. Third is balance, managing our resources in a way that's in harmony with our spiritual values and the environment. And finally, cooperation, the idea of working together for the good of the whole community. Okay, so that's the big picture philosophy, the why. But what about the how? How does any of this actually play out in the real world, in our everyday financial lives? Let's take a super common example. It's called a murabaha, or a cost-plus contract. Imagine you want to buy a car, but you want to avoid an interest-bearing loan. So you go to an Islamic financial institution. They will literally go out and buy the car you want directly from the dealer. Then they turn around and sell that car to you for a slightly higher price that you've both agreed on upfront, which includes their profit. You then pay them back in installments. The absolute key difference here is that this is a sale of a real thing, a car. It's not just a loan of money where profit is made by charging interest on a debt. Now, if we zoom out and look at the whole economy, you can see things are different there too. See that part at the bottom for zakat? That's institutionalized charity. In this system, wealth flows from households and businesses into these special bodies whose entire job is to systematically distribute it to people in need. It isn't just optional giving. It's a structural, built-in part of the economy designed to keep wealth moving and support the entire community.
This table just lays it all out, side by side, and you can really see the contrast. Where conventional economics is often secular, Islamic economics is explicitly guided by faith. Its values aren't an add-on, they're central. Its main goal is to meet the collective needs of the community, not just the endless wants of individuals. And the government is expected to step in to ensure justice and fairness, instead of just taking a hands-off, free market rules-all approach.
So you might be thinking, okay, this is all interesting theory, but is anyone actually doing this? Does it really matter today? Well, the numbers might just surprise you. I mean, just look at a country like Indonesia. It has a Muslim population of over 229 million people. That is an enormous potential user base for Sharia-compliant finance. We are not talking about some tiny niche market here. And the need is absolutely massive. Check this out. A staggering 74% of micro, small, and medium-sized businesses in the country can't get the financing they need. This is a giant gap where ethical finance models, combined with new financial technology, could step in and make a huge difference, empowering local economies from the ground up. And if we zoom out to the global picture, the potential market for Sharia economics is estimated at an incredible $3 trillion. Yeah, trillion with a T. This is no longer some fringe idea. It's a major and growing force in global finance. And you know what's really fascinating? These core ideas about managing resources for the good of everyone, you don't just find them in religious texts. I mean, listen to this. This is Article 33 of Indonesia's national constitution. It says that natural resources are to be used for the greatest prosperity of the people, a principle of collective good that lines up perfectly with the worldview we've been talking about. And all of this brings us right back to our big question. In a world that's struggling with growing inequality and financial instability, is it possible that a system built on these ancient principles of fairness, community, and a higher purpose could actually offer a real path forward? It's a powerful thought to leave you with. Thanks for joining me on this exploration.